Father, as your word is coming, let it be a blessing unto us as it always is. Let it speak to our need. 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 Let it heal us. Let it encourage us. Let it bring us to the place we ought to be. I thank you, Father. Jesus' mighty name. It says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is man's all. Or it says that this is the whole duty of man. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Ecclesiastes is one of my favorite books to read. And I've started reading it. I've just read the introduction and the people, but I've gone all the way to the end. Because Ecclesiastes is a book of teachings. It means the one who speaks to the assembly. So he has gathered people and he's teaching them. That is why when you translate, it says it's either called a preacher or teacher. But when you expand it, it's the one who speaks to the assembly. So it's like he has gathered people and he's telling them. So when you start from chapter 1, it talks about a lot of things about life. And this was Solomon in his old age, when he had done everything, backslidden, married 1,000 women, done everything there is to do. And then he wrote this. Some people say that, oh, how can a backslidden man have written? I think that by that time, sense had come to him. Because these scriptures are inspired. He had gone through it all, seen his mistake, come back in his old age, and wrote this. And he said the conclusion of the matter is fear God. Somebody will say the conclusion of the matter is to what do you call it? Love God, worship God, do this, do that, have money, be influential, be famous, have significant impact. But he said the conclusion of the matter is that fear God, and keep his commandments. For this is man's all, not man's sum. And this morning, as I was just reading my Bible, because I was just reading it about the definition that I like to give to fearing God, which is you can only fear God of God to him. You can only worship and reverence God or someone when you can ascribe to them that which is due them. If you cannot ascribe to a person that which is due them, you will never be able to reverence them the way you should. So you see, that is why that is a good definition. You see, that one comes before the fear of the Lord. To fear the Lord, for you to be able to fear God, you must be able to attribute, not wrongly, attribute to God the things that are of God. That is what will let the fear and the awesomeness and the reverence of God come upon you. So if you are not able to attribute to God correctly the things that are of God, you will not fear him. That is why many of us, we don't fear God. Because we cannot attribute to God the things that are of God. So once you cannot attribute that to God, God is not who you say he is. If you can attribute your life to me, the way you relate to me will be different from any other person. Are you getting what I'm saying? So if you cannot attribute to God the thing that is, forget about fearing God, forget about serving God, forget about worshiping God. That is why Solomon said that the conclusion of the matter is to fear God, is to be able to see in your life that things that are of God and to rightfully attribute them to God. And when you do that, you will fear God. You will fear God. You will fear God. You will fear God. Many of us, we don't attribute a lot of things to God. Because it comes so naturally to us that we don't see it as God. So it's like it's part of, we can always do it. We'll always be able to do it. Oh, I'm a good dancer, I'm a good singer, I can. But you see, if you attribute it to God, it will change the way you see God. So because you cannot rightfully attribute things to God, we don't fear him. And that, you see, and that is all God taught me. And I'm sure in the next 5 minutes I'll be done. Because I knew it was a long sentence. I wanted something that I could say shortly and finish. Now let me give you a few examples. In every society, you see, what the devil does to fight the knowledge of God is that men begin to attribute different things to other things. And once a society begins to attribute the things of God to other things, they lose their awe of God. They lose their reverence and their worship of God. That's what the devil does. So he just gives you something that would now you attribute that thing to instead of God. So when you take the societies that don't believe in God, it's because they attribute a lot of things. You see, that is how come science has become so prominent. Because science is not, you see, if you're a Christian, science will point you to God. Because the beauty, every time I do more research, read what I teach, it shows, it points me more to God about the awesomeness of God. But you see, what people are doing, they are trying to use what they have discovered to replace God and to say that this thing is attributed to this force and this and this. And because of that, they have no fear of God. So when you go to Europe, they don't attribute things to God like we attribute things to God. That is how come there is no worship and reverence of God in those places. And so in our lives, if you don't want to become like a Europe, you must learn to attribute the things of God to God. Correct? Otherwise, that is how the devil will make you not worship God. That's how the devil will take you away from God. All those places that don't believe in God, they are driven by knowledge, isn't it? And that is what Paul calls that some people are following something that is falsely called knowledge. That's what he told Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 6. That's, I think, is the very last verses. So we get knowledge so that we can disprove the existence of God. People are searching for knowledge so that they can so that they can ascribe the rising and the setting of the sun to something and not to God. And then say, you see, because every time you are able to ascribe that which was given to God to something else, then you can say that, you see, God doesn't exist. Because once you are able to take somebody's attributes from him, that person will cease to be important, cease to function. So that's all the devil does. The world is just trying to disprove God. But when I see science and I see the wonders of science, it rather tells me that there's a creator. It points me to the fact that this one cannot be by chance. So science is not contrary to God, even though people are using that knowledge to try and, because they want to say that, oh, it is not true. Health is not from God. Health is by eating good food. When you have vitamins and you have proteins, carbohydrates, you do exercise. So then that's so when you go and tell that, oh, God will going to do, and God, they attribute their health. So you see, that attribute that should correctly go to God has been taken and given to something else. So now you start to diminish God. You start to diminish God. And the more you diminish God, the less you, because you will not worship something that is small. That is minimal. Something that you diminish before, you will not worship that God. If you have somebody that you hold in high esteem and you like that, suddenly people come and start diminishing that, oh, he's not like this, he's like this. Suddenly you see that, and then you see, oh, my respect for the person what goes down. Is that what you say? Yeah. The same thing. So subtly, when we don't attribute the things of God to God, then we turn away from him. And we don't even know we are turning away from him. So let us learn to attribute the things that are of God correctly to God. What do you attribute to God? What is it that you attribute to God? Some of you can attribute certain things to God, but so as for this one there, it cannot be God. As for this one is me. Maybe I'm a bing. My bing. We answer. You understand? Yeah. And I was telling you a story. I happened to get to an accident scene. The accident had just happened. And there was a man and a wife. They just narrowly escaped. And so when we got there, I was with one reverend minister. And so when we saw, we knew the people, so we stopped. And the people came out. And then the wife came. Said the thing, it is God who has saved us. Said God has been amazing. How the car managed to swerve. And then with the car almost hit us. And I mean, she was so, and then the husband also came. Said, I was at the junction. And I looked in my mind. When I saw the way the car was coming, so I had to think very fast and quickly. And so in my quick thinking, I swerved. And that is how come the accident didn't happen. Yeah. Two different people. The same car. One is attributing the thing. You see? And when the two of them, when you hear such a thing, which of them do you think worships God? The one that attributes things to God has a reverence of God. And that is the truth. Because that husband doesn't really believe in anything. Yeah. So if you cannot learn to attribute things to God, forget it. When you read the account of the people of Israel, and that's the last time I'm going to read. Do we need to read it? You don't need to read it. In Exodus, I think 32. Where Moses went up the mountain, the people came and said that this Moses fellow, he's been gone for long. We don't know where he is. Aaron, Charlie, make us a god. Listen to what Aaron said after he made a god. 32 verse 4. He says, and he received the gold from their hands, and he fashioned it with an engraving tool, and made a molded calf. Then they said, this is our God, O Israel, that brought us out of the land of what? Egypt. In order for you to serve something, you must attribute the things of God to that thing. And then in order not to worship God, you must remove the things that are meant for God and place it elsewhere. So they diminished God and gave it, and rather magnified the golden calf. So the attribute, that which he said, this is the God that brought us out of Egypt. And this sin continued to be perpetuated in Egypt. Anytime they made a God, they will say, this is the God that brought us out. Why? Because you see, when you take away the attributes of God, you lose, you see, he loses reverence in your eyes. And because we don't attribute things to God, we don't see what he does. We don't see, we see, this morning I looked at the semester and it was amazing. And I said, I could never have done this. I could never have done this. I looked at the executive. When they came, they themselves, they looked at themselves, and I'm sure they were like, what work can we do? Yeah. Because we have been seeing leaders. When we pick leaders, this person has this. Many of when you came, Charlie, was just that, Charlie, by grace. This last year or this year was the time that you see sometimes you have material. So this one is good material. This one we were just trusting God, that God has spoken. Let us pick these people; they can do the work. I'm telling you. So I sat back and I was like, and this is how come all these things came. That you see, you cannot in my attributing things to God, God suddenly became so big to me. You see, the reason why, and that is why it says the conclusion of the matter is fear God and keep it. Because when you can attribute things to God and you can fear God, when you can attribute things to God, you can always thank God. Because if you attribute things, you always praise God. If you can attribute things to God, you will never be angry with God. If you attribute things to God, you will not feel God has not been good to you. You will not feel that He is delaying you. If you can really attribute things to God, you will never say God has been unfaithful. You will never say He has delayed you. You will never say He's been unkind to you. That is why it is the conclusion of the matter. If you can attribute things to God, you will learn contentment. Because what you have, you say, this one is from God, I like it. You will learn satisfaction to be happy with what God has given you. Because you can attribute it to, this is my daily bread, this is my portion, this is what God has. I will not chase after things that will destroy me. Because you can attribute the little you have to God. You can attribute the thing that you feel is little to God. Say, this indeed is a blessing of God. So you will not chase things that will destroy you. We would all be very happy and joyful in the house. I'm telling you, our lives would be an epitome of joy and peace, and because we can attribute everything to God. You can attribute the good to God. You can attribute the bad. I said, God's hand is, God is working it out. God has not left the scene. I can add this one, it is God working. You will never get angry with God. Even though the temptation will be there. Even though sometimes, but when you come to your senses, you say, this one is God. And instead of being angry, you would worship Him. If you can attribute things to God, you can work for God. Because you see Him as so big. You see that He will take care of you. You see that He will be with you. If you can attribute things to God, it will help you make decisions when it comes to morality, sin, and keeping away from sin. Because you fear Him. If only you can attribute things to God, it will change a lot of things. I'm telling you. But the problem is that many of us, we don't attribute a lot of things to God. We say we do, but we don't. We say we do, but we don't. That is why we are so jittery. That is why we fret a lot. When you attribute things to God, you will not be anxious about a lot of things. You will not be worried about a lot of things. Yeah. You attribute it, but we don't attribute a lot of things to God. So the moment then you begin. Over the years, when it came to me, I was like, wow. The fear of the Lord. The conclusion of the matter is fear God. When all is said and done, this semester, what I want to, as you go home, fear God. Fear God. For the rest of your life, fear God. Attribute things to Him. You may not understand, but attribute it to Him. He's got your back. How many things do you attribute to God? You're being in the university. You're going to second year. You're going to third year, finishing school. How far you have lived. Your salvation. The fact that you've even been called as a leader. Do you attribute it to God, or because you are fine? As for me, I have leadership qualities. Wow. If you do that, you will fail. You can't work for him. So this morning, that's what I want to leave you with. Our time is fast spent. The fear of the Lord is attributing things to God. Shall we rise to our feet? We just want to pray. And you want to tell God that, God, help me. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me. Look into your life. Look into your life. Look into your life. Look into your life. What are the things that you don't subscribe to God? Attribute the things that belong. If you can correctly ascribe them to God, it will change your life. The fact that you are here, even in this church, you think you chose harvest. You think you chose harvest. You chose harvest and you came. You think you're coming in contact with myself, with the people around you. It's chance.
That seems to weigh me down.
You think you're coming to UCC is chance. You're coming to meet people is chance.
Needs consistency.
Attribute it to the Lord.
To lift my hands, to give you praise when the one's around.
Oh God.
Oh, the worshiper in me wants to break free.
I just want to
from
talk
the
to God.
intellectual
Let's fear him.
mentality.
Let's fear him. Let's
like
fear him.
When I should be
Some of us we think we are doing things by ourselves. And so we choose a no.
Give you praise and glory.
Don't let anything take away those that you must give to God.
I wanna give.
Don't let anything take away the things you must give to God.
I wanna do what you ask me to.
Don't let anything take away the things you must give to God. Don't diminish God in your own eyes.
Oh, babe, I wanna live a life that's real. I wanna serve you, Lord, for you.
Thank you, Jesus.
For you deserve all this and more.
Thank you, Jesus.
So I give you more.
Thank you, Jesus.
Oh, more.
Father, I thank you for this morning.
I give you more.
I thank you for your grace and for your mercy.
More.
I thank you for all you have done and continue to do.
I give you more.
I thank you for your loving kindness. I thank you for how far you have brought us this semester.
I give you more.
I thank you for the leaders, the amazing work they have done. I thank you for those who have assisted and helped.
The worship
I thank you for even the decisions I have made. I attribute them to you.
From the cares of
the things that have been done,
to weigh me down.
I attribute them to you.
Oh, the worship in me needs consistency. To lift my hands and give you praise when no one's around.
And I have the leaders, I just want to pray for them.
Oh, the worship in me wants to break free from the intellectual mentality.
I pray that may the Lord bless
like
you.
When I should be up, I'm seated.
May the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless you.
Giving you hands to give you praise.
May the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord protect you. Oh,
I'm gonna go wherever you say. Say the word.
What your name cannot do your education cannot do for you. May God do that.
You deserve all this and more.
May God cover you.
I give you more.
May you never lack a covering. You are somebody's child.
I give you more.
You are the child of the Most High God.
I give you more.
His name is protection.
That I have here.
May it be upon you.
I give you more.
I bless you.
Every
I bless
little
you.
thing that I have.
I bless you.
I give you more.
I bless you with the blessings of Jehovah.
I give you more. Every little thing that I have, yeah.
I
I
bless you.
give you more.
I bless you.
Give
bless
you
you.
more. I give you more.
I
Every
bless you.
little thing that I
May that
have.
blessing work and work in you.
It belongs to you. It belongs to you. Every little thing that I've got. Every little thing that I've been, yeah. You.
Take the wampons back to our
Your
Take
grace
justice back to our various
abound
destination.
this war.
Take us safe.
Sovereign.